Hi all, I hope you're having a good weekend. I thought I would take a few moments to give you a preview or a review of what we have coming up this week before we meet again. Because unlike some classes where you can maybe pick one day to get all the readings done or get the assignment done, ours is a class where every day there's a little something to do. You add it up and it probably takes as much or even less time than another class, but because it's broken up in some respects over the week, that adds a whole nother level of challenge. So a review of the things we discussed in class so that here in the next 5 minutes or so, you'll have a sense, you'll have primed for you what to plan for and anticipate for the upcoming week. First and foremost, the daily practice. This week, you'll be learning and practicing the body scan. Maybe I'll close with a few minutes of body scan practice, which will be optional, so you could turn off the video at that time if you wanted to, because you'll hear the body scan when you do it this week. But we didn't discuss it a lot in class. You have a little bit of it in the readings for this week. And because it's new, I'll offer you a sense of that. But we have a new practice, the body scan. And of the 5 days, there's 7 opportunities here to note your observations this week. At least 5 of them will be done this week, 5 practices. One of them will be outside looking at a tree and for at least 10 minutes, setting your timer, and for at least 10 minutes or longer, using your crayons, your artistic instruments to draw that tree, much like we did in class with the snow globe. That'll be one of your 5 days. So you'll have 4 days to practice that are assigned, 4 days that are assigned. Of course, you can practice all 7. Of course, you could practice a couple times over the course of a single day. You're leading yourself. But of the 4 days, other than out drawing the tree, that you practice, you'll be practicing at least 2 times the body scan. And then if you want to, you could have the focused attention from last week, if you'd like to bring that in, or you could practice the body scan all of the times that you practice. That's up to you. But importantly, keep this handy, keep this by your bed, or keep this where you're practicing in the living room or wherever that may be, so that you're reminded. So this is meant to be a reminder, oh yeah, that's right, to practice. And then each time you do, as I did this morning, you noted time, 9 a.m., location, bedroom, practice, focused attention, practice, and then some observations. And the observations are meant to be simple. Try not to be thinking about what you're going to write, because you're not going to get extra credit for writing a better observation. It's the idea is when you finish practicing, write down whatever comes to mind in terms of your observations of that practice. So it could be, for example, restless and calm, lots of mind wandering. That would be it. And as we sort of talked about it, as we talked about in class, thanks to Josh's input, we really may not get it quite right in terms of a look back as to what that practice was like, but we'll have a sense, and it's just meant to be a general sense. The important part is that we're practicing. This can help us be accountable. This can also help us when we're in class, talking about our experience, practicing, because it's going to be hard to remember, certainly days later, what any given practice was like, and also over time to begin to note some patterns, right, or some changes. So please attend to this each day in whatever way that you choose. One of the days, I've already noted it, Monday, I put a little tree by it so that I'm not having to remember it on the fly or perhaps go, oh my God, I forgot about it. Right now I'm putting on Monday, that's when I'm going to go outside with my crayons and with my book from last week. And on the other side of where we did the snow globe, we will do the tree, and you'll draw a tree. And then when we meet in class, we'll pull out that page and turn it in. And that's where on one side we'll have the snow globe, and on the other side you'll have the tree. And that tree practice is your practice. It is going to be my practice for Monday. Now, on the other side of this card, you have a week to think through. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to implement it. You just think through, what is the technology shift I'm going to make that's very clear and specific and doable, that we'll then talk about next week and then you'll implement. So for example, I wrote, put phone on off, so turn off the cell phone, and put it in the other room. So I'm being very specific here. I'm turning it off. I'm putting it in another room from 7 to 9 p.m. I'm being very specific of the time frame. I'm also trying to be very reasonable so that it's doable. If it's a reach, don't write it down. This isn't for a reach. This is for something that's doable. but also would be useful, doable and useful when studying. So between 7 and 9, when I'm studying, that's a time when I would tend to get some work done at night, I'm going to turn the phone off, put it in another room, and that will be what I'm writing here for the plan for the digital decluttering. And so as you think through something that usually has a good time frame and a reasonable time frame, very clear on what you're going to do with the technology and where you're going to put the technology, and we'll talk about this in class. Now, in terms of what to do this week in this regard that's related, you'll recall that at least a couple of times, what that means, I guess, is at least once, but perhaps more than that, when you're in a car or when you're in transit, to turn your phone off and or put it on silent, that's fine, and put it away, like put it off to the side, put it in your book bag, put it in the trunk, whatever to you is doable, very important, has to be doable for the duration of that particular ride or however many rides you do this. And the key is to notice, what do you observe having the phone sort of out of reach, having the phone out of reach. And we'll talk about that in class. And remember, I'm not going to answer this, but when I say in class next week, what was the assignment with the phone in the car or in the metro or on the bus or in the Uber, the answer is not going to be, and hopefully you know what that is, but we'll talk about that. Now, in addition, we've got our duck and our rabbit. And last week we had the think, what does the person request, right? What do they need? What's the need? Think and need. Which we discussed, or at least I began to share with you. It's hard to know what somebody needs in a given moment. There's layers to sort of drop in on to know that. But of course, it's very helpful to know, what does my client really need? What does my partner really need? What does this person I'm talking to really need? That can be helpful if we want to be responsive. But to get there, there's some steps. And so we spent last week thinking occasionally about what's the need of the person, or what's my need. Now we're going to be talking about what's that person feeling, or what am I feeling? And again, it's a reminder that we tend to get caught up in what they're thinking. What's their thought? What are they thinking? What am I thinking? And what we're doing is we're taking a little shift of perception in some ways, just like going from the duck to the rabbit is a shift in perspective, and it's hard to hold both, if not impossible, at the same time. What's the feeling? And so here I put in examples of what could be, and the ways you might do it by drawing lines for different instances where this comes up and you reflect on it. And here for the first one, sort of drawing on what we discussed in class, I put me, so this might be about you, and the thought is, they don't want me to join them. That's the thought. They don't want me to join them. And then, what's the feeling? Well, it could be sad or lonely. And here's one for another person. So we're observing another person, and the thought is, they're thinking, you're being unfair. You're being unfair, Scott. And it's like, what do they need? What are they feeling? It's like maybe they're feeling disappointment. It's not like you have to get this right. You're just sort of exploring this terrain. The next one is something, me, she liked my idea. How am I feeling? How might you feel if somebody likes your idea? And of course, there's many different things you could drop in on this, but happy, right? Or she didn't like my idea, what might that be? Discouraged. So the idea is here just to sort of begin to attend to that people around us, especially when snow globes are going, they have got feelings. And we oftentimes are really much caught in what we think they're thinking, and we're taking that as the information to respond to, when in fact also being aware of what they're feeling is helpful. And that's the purpose of this exercise. Not about getting it right, it's about taking a stab at what it might be. And to get at least several of these over the course of the week. Alrighty, we've also got the readings. So the readings for this week they begin with awareness, which I think you'll find interesting. That's my thought. I'm thinking you'll find it. What's my need? That you learn, that I feel like, what's my need? What's my feeling? Hopeful, feeling hopeful. So you'll read awareness and you'll respond to 4 questions, just like you have for each of the other readings on relaxation, attention, and leadership. You've also got a reading that I began to read from a little bit from The Untethered Soul, The Voice Inside Your Head. And you have another reading from Dan Harris, 10% Happier, from one of the chapters in his book, which I also think you'll very much enjoy, the power of negative thinking. And I think, and I encourage you to read these this weekend, like read them early in the week, read them early on, because these in particular, I think you'll find easy reads and interesting and enjoyable and illuminating. And also they'll inform your practice this week. They'll help sort of you settle into the practice, because they're all very much in the spirit of gaining more insight into the activity of the mind and the feelings that arise and the sensations in the body, etc. Now, as it relates to the body, and as we close this segment, this week's practice is the body scan. And whereas the focused attention practice invites us to direct our attention to an object like the breath, and when we notice our mind wandering, bring our attention back to the breath, that's pretty much it. The body scan is very similar. It invites us to direct our attention to a sensation of an area of the body, like the left foot, and to focus attention there for a few moments. So that's the focused attention piece as a part of this practice. So we're not going very far from what we've already been doing. And then to notice whatever sensations might be arising there. And a few moments later to move to a nearby area like the ankle. And we just sort of scan through the body. That's the body scan. So you'll be practicing that one each time you practice it for 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute body scan, and that's available on the So Be Mindful app, and it's also available on the Blackboard website. So that's, I hope, helpful to you as it relates to the assignments for this week. Please go to Blackboard, because you'll have another additional thing to do with regards to the reading from The Untethered Soul on the voice in the head, or the voice in my head. And now you can continue on with your day. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, or spend just a few more minutes as I discuss and then briefly guide, like a 1-minute guiding of the beginning of a body scan. So the body scan is a very important practice. You might find it helpful to do occasionally at night when you're tired, or when you're tired but you can't fall asleep, to help you fall asleep, and you can do it laying down instead of sitting up. And many people find that this is a practice that helps them fall asleep. But we're not doing it to fall asleep. We're doing it to what? To fall awake. And so if you do it at night and you fall asleep, great, it's a technique for falling asleep. But as a mindfulness practice, we will be turning our attention to different parts of the body, resting our attention there for a few moments, observing what's taking place. That's being aware. That's one of our readings for today. So we're directing our attention, and we're aware of what we're experiencing. Attention, awareness, and we move through the body. So to close this, let's begin with a 1-minute body scan practice, so you have a sense of what it is that it has in store for you. So we bring ourselves into a posture that's upright and stable. As we lower or close our eyes, and a reminder, you're welcome to do this practice sitting like we are here, and as is assumed, or you could be laying down. You could be laying on the floor with maybe a pillow under your knees and under your head, or in bed. Aware of the posture from head to toes, side to side, belly to back. Taking a slower, deeper breath, breathing in and breathing out. And now directing attention to the sensations arising in and around the left foot. You might notice where the bottom of your foot meets the ground, a carpet, your shoe. You might notice the toes gently, lightly touching one another. Could be a warmth, maybe moisture. Observing whatever there is that you might notice. It may be very palpable in your mind. It might be very subtle. It could be hard. Maybe there's nothing you notice. That's okay. As we shift attention to the ankle of the left foot, as we breathe. And then to the shin and calf of the left foot. noticing whatever sensations may be arising here and in the knee. And noticing whether those sensations are pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Just checking in. It's just a very direct observation. We're not thinking good or bad, or I like it or I don't like it. And if we are, we're aware that we're having a thought, and we at some point realize we're having a thought, and then we bring our attention back to the sensations of wherever we are in the practice. And in this case, it's the knee as we breathe. Alrighty. So that's the beginning of the body scan. And the body scan gives you an opportunity to really work with your attention, cultivate greater present moment awareness with the body and different parts of the body as the object of your attention. Alrighty, I hope you have a really nice weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next Friday.